The town of Clinton entered into a consent order in 1997 with the Connecticut Department of Environmental Protection. Previous studies in the town had identified areas that could not support on-site septic systems. Where are we currently with our water infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure, and where do you see potential development, and how do you devise we get there? And this question goes first to Ms. Goupil.
So that everybody understands that in 1997, when we signed that consent order, it was acknowledging that we created the issue of dense development in unsustainable areas of town, and that we created the community pollution problems. How are we going to pay for it? Well, it really is up to the Board of Selectmen to determine how that structure is created, not WPCC. There's a lot of misconception out there that WPCC is actually in charge of creating that financial structure. They are an advisory role to create advice to the Board of Selectmen. At the end of the day, the Board of Selectmen, working with the Board of Finance, has to determine that. But the town is responsible for resolving the community problems right now. We need to look at benefit assessments and see if we can defray some of the costs there. But what is the water company offering us? We still don't know that. We don't have an answer to that. Is that 2% loan still available if we're going to deal with some of these issues? And regarding the water pipe going up to Rocky Ledge, what's going to happen there? And why is there 3 years that the town is responsible for that process? That would incur the cost of hiring additional town employees to manage that. So these are questions that still need to be addressed. But we need to really look well beyond what these troubleshooting approaches are, and look at scalable solutions to look at our future growth. And this goes back to the wastewater potential at Unilever for the downtown. What is the capacity there? What could we build upon to prioritize development in the downtown area? And look to the Route 1, what's available there soil-wise, and then really expand upon what we have in town. Restaurants, etc., really need those wastewater opportunities to be able to come into Clinton, and that was one of the things that most people were interested in through the town plan process, is more restaurant options.
Thank you. Mr. Carr?
Well, the Wastewater Water Pollution Control Commission has had several studies, somewhat inconclusive. They've had numbers anywhere from 120 million to 50 million, which is, I think, the current operating number. And then there's the question, which is, I think, separate, although it's related, which Ms. Goupil raised, was this water main going up Route 81. Clearly, a private water main ought to be paid for by the water company. And I think the move to try to get Clinton to pay for that was really a misfire. There's no precedent for the town of Clinton to be paying for water mains. It really is something that the water company should be doing. But it sets a precedent for how we might pay for water pollution control and wastewater solutions. And I don't think we have first of all, I don't think we have enough studies to tell us exactly what that is, even though we've had tons of studies. I don't think we have a lot of specifics quite yet. But secondly, even if we did have an engineering solution, we have to have a financial solution and a political solution. And that financial solution has to recognize that 1,200 households in Clinton out of 6,100, that it's going to be very hard to convince us politically for the other 5,000 households to pay for the 1,200 households. And so it really gets to be, you have to think it through. I understand the benefit assessment, and according to Hal Dolan, he tells me that about the most that you could expect the homeowners to pay is about $20,000. When you back that up to figure out what you can support, that's a $32 million solution in which the state would pay 25%. The homeowners would pay up to whatever that benefit is, and that would leave nothing for the taxpayers under that kind of a scenario. But you need something that is politically acceptable to the voters of Clinton, and it's a three-legged stool, and I think we have one leg so far.
Thank you. Ms. Goupil, would you like a rebuttal?
So currently there's 5.1 million that has been brought forward to the Board of Finance for the water main pipe up to Rocky Ledge, and they're tabling it right now until we can determine some of those questions that need to be asked. But at the end of the day, if we do not find a solution that is politically acceptable at the ballot to resolve some of these issues, the state will come in and force a solution on us, similar to some of the surrounding towns. So when we have a new Board of Selectmen, we need to address this specifically because it is something that is hanging over us. And we spent a lot of money within WPCC for reports specifically giving us options, but now we have to find the solutions that are going to work with those options, both financially and as Mr. Carr said, that are politically acceptable.
Mr. Carr?
Well, the threat of Water Pollution Control Commission coming in, I mean, they're so understaffed these days that they couldn't even get the mill pond thing through. The state's cutting our funding at the same time they're demanding things of us, and they don't really have the manpower really to demand all that. At some point, I think we're surrendering when we could be probably fighting some of this a little bit harder. I clearly believe that the Board of Selectmen suggesting that the taxpayers of Clinton should pay for a water main up to Rocky Ledge was, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was just so shocked by it. And as a taxpayer, and as a resident, as a voter, I just couldn't have been more disappointed.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.